According to JPMorgan, a research report that they released last week, the U.S. banking crisis may be vindication for the crypto ecosystem. This research report dives into, of course, the banking collapses with Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank and Silvergate recently, but also goes into talk about exposes the weaknesses in the traditional financial system and the asset mismatches that we've seen recently, and how crypto might be a way around that, or at least might be good to have some exposure to it after all. Jen, I'm going to throw a story over to you. I love seeing these stories when the price is going up. This is exactly what we want. We get the bankers on our side, and we got price going up. This is what we need.
What a great Wednesday, right? So I remember when we were talking about the banking crisis, I brought this up. It was kind of bittersweet. It was a bittersweet feeling to see what was going on with the banks in the States, but to see the price of Bitcoin, on this steady incline. However, I feel like people who are watching the banks collapse and who have never dabbled in crypto aren't piling their money into Bitcoin for several different reasons. One of them we're going to talk about in the next story, but also because regulation in the States, right? People who have not interacted with crypto, I think, are reading a lot of the mainstream headlines, looking at what regulators are saying and staying away from crypto. People who have interacted with crypto, though, I think are looking at Bitcoin and saying, maybe I'm going to put some more of my money into Bitcoin because of what's going on in the States. I don't think we've seen the end of this. I've said that on the show before. I don't think we've seen the last bank collapse. I think that the economy is probably going to get worse before it gets better. But this is a good story. I love to see the price go up. I love that we have alternatives and people can make choices. Zach?
There's a big hedge word here, right? Maybe vindication, Will. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, all right? I just love the JPM.
Excited.
I love the JPM reports because all these researchers, they have to walk such a fine line, right? Because Jamie Dimon, he's one of the biggest Bitcoin critics there is, right? He's the CEO of JPMorgan, has long been skeptical of the space. And yet JPMorgan itself, as an institution, a big institution at that, does have various crypto experiments going on and does produce reports such as this that may run afoul of some of the boss's predispositions and thoughts about the space. So it is always funny to watch them do that dance from a public relations perspective, right? You don't want to sink the figurehead's longstanding belief that Bitcoin is kind of a scam, but you also want to say, okay, hey, this may be validation for what Bitcoin was created to do in the first place. So I always just watch. I like the tightrope act that JPM's beloved analysts here are executing. Will, I'll toss it back to you.
No, you're right. These banking analysts, they can't quite take a stance. They can just sort of hint at what they actually think. Two other points in here that are interesting to talk about. One is that Bitcoin ordinals are shouted out within this research report, saying that might drive up transaction fees and increase miners' revenues, which would benefit the entire ecosystem. More demand to use Bitcoin is sort of the idea here. Cool to see a fledgling product only launched in January, already mentioned in these banking notes. Second is the halving schedule for Bitcoin. For those not in the know, Bitcoin undergoes a change in supply issuance schedule every 4 years. We are coming up on that in about 1 year from now. And historically, this is sort of time with a bull run, kind of lapses behind it, maybe a few months. But I think bankers who look at the high level data are looking at us and be like, there might be some good stuff in store on that Bitcoin angle. I don't know if I have any more takes past that, guys. I think that we might see a few more of these banking reports pop up on DeFi or Bitcoin again.
You think we might? We definitely will.
But I think they're going to be positive as a thing because yesterday we talked about the SEC lawyer angle and having a chart kind of comparing enforcement actions and headlines with how many lawyers there are. I think we need a banking one with positive to negative banking analyst stories based on price.